Everybody's asking the same questions about AI. What's it going to take from me? The real one nobody's asking is what it gives to the people willing to actually do the work and bring their souls to it. Here's the thing about AI. It's trained on everything humans have ever made. Every painting, every song, every line of code. But it was never in the room when the thing got created. You can copy the painting. You can't copy the thing that moved the painter's hand. AI can scale your hustle. It can even mimic your humanity. But it cannot plug into your source. Only you can. That's what this show is about. Welcome to Super Confident AI. I'm Alexander Smith. This is the show for the builders, the hustlers, the people who look at this AI moment and don't see a threat. They see the biggest opportunity of their lifetime, if they're willing to reach for it. Because here's where we stand. Most of what you hear about AI out there is fear. It's coming for your job. It's coming for your art. It's coming for your future. We're going to make the opposite case, and we're going to back it up. Everything we talk about on this show comes down to three things. Hustle, that's what you do. The grind, the execution that nobody posts about. Human, that's who you are. Your taste, your judgment, the relationships you build, the stuff AI can imitate but never actually own. And source, that's where it all comes from. Your connection to God, to the divine, the well that creativity and purpose actually flow out of. Hustle, human, source. AI multiplies all three. That's the whole game. And I'm not doing this alone. This is Tyler Thompson, co-founder of My Instant AI. And one of the reasons any of this is real and not just a really cool idea. Tyler, good to have you here.
Nice to be here, sir.
So I want people to actually know who you are, not just your title. Let me tell you how Tyler and I came together, because it wasn't a job posting. Tyler and I actually met at an event. We sat next to each other in a bar, didn't talk to each other until the actual dinner started, right next to each other. Since then, he and I have come together on everything from friendship to business to life. That's the partnership. That's why it works. I'll give you one thing about Tyler that tells you who he is. He will not cross a moral line, and that's one of the reasons why I love him. It allows me to be highly flexible, whereas he is the rock. Not only that, but he and I have spent countless hours talking about this very subject. AI, humanity, hustle, source. And that's the point I want people to get. We're here to talk about hustle, human, and source. So, here we go. Tyler, welcome to Super Confident AI.
Thanks
How
for
are you
having
today?
me. I'm doing really well.
Good. So, I want to start off with a really important question. When I say AI can't plug into source, only the human can, what does that land for you?
So I take source. I use the words source, universe, and God interchangeably depending on who I'm talking to. Typically with you, it is God because that's where you stand. I don't know that AI is there yet because large language models are literally just there to interpret the data and then spit data back out, where humans and most of us don't actually know what's going on in the large language models behind the scenes, like at Google, at OpenAI. So there could be more to that Gen Pop is unaware of. But us humans actually interact with the world. We are this energetic being that can plug in and walk on the ground barefoot and actually be triggered by things, be curious about things and actually interact and ask the bigger questions. And I know when the harder times of my life actually come about is when I actually start praying, and I don't know where that comes from. But it's about the only thing I have left to do. And I just turn it over to this higher power. And I don't know that AI is there yet or if it'll ever be there. But as of right now, from what I see and what I interact with on a daily or a monthly basis, it's not there. It can spit out some very beautiful things, but it's still not interacting. It can't give me a fist bump. It can't have a direct conversation, even when I use the talk to text, and it'll cut me off because it can't watch my verbal and facial signaling to say, oh, is Tyler done with his sentence right now? And so there's still a very large disconnect that I see with that, and that would be the connecting to source.
Do you think AI is ever going to be able to connect to source, being that it's being created by us and we are connected to source? Or do you think there will always be a disconnect?
I genuinely wonder if this is the next evolution of humans, is AI. Because whether you come about it from a biblical sense of God created Adam, removed the rib, created Eve from that rib, humans have done the same thing. We literally took a rock of silicon and then melted it down, put it on a piece of wafer board, basically, and it started interacting with us. And it's just been this constant evolution of our phones are more powerful than the first computers by leaps and bounds, and those computers took an entire warehouse sometimes of space, where now our phone is yay big. And so I do believe that it's possible, because everything is just energy and atoms put together, and it's just different rearrangements of all of it. If there's 150 elements on the periodic table, plus or minus, we're all made of all of that. And it's all just energy flowing back and forth. So possible, but I don't know if or when.
Okay, so I want to get into your history real quick, and then we can dive into this deeper. I want you to take us back before any of the AI stuff. What did hustle actually look like for you day to day in your early years?
How early? Do you want to take it back to
Let's take it all the way
grade
back.
school? Grade school was, I was a naturally smart and gifted student. Probably in the 98th, 99th percentile. So it was just doing all the homework. It was reading all of the books. It was constantly being curious. I was a teacher's pet oftentimes. So like that's where that probably started. And then I was always the older, like I was the older sibling. So always needing to set an example or feeling like I needed to set an example. And then into high school, played a little bit of football, and I started late, started sophomore year. And while every other kid may or may not have shown up to practice, I showed up to every single weightlifting session with varsity, even though I was just JV. I showed up and did everything. And just getting noticed by the coaching staff for that reason. Like I became the hardest worker in the room for that. Definitely not the most talented. And then at like post-graduation of high school, I just decided to start drinking beer on the front porch with my best friend at the time. I was still lifting on an almost daily basis. And then I wasn't seeing progress. And I was like, screw this. I'm tired of this. What does it take to actually get bigger? And so I did the research at the time. It was watching YouTube videos, which were still early. And it was going on bodybuilding.com and like, oh, X amount of calories, X amount of training, X plus Y equals Z. And Z equals gains both in weight on the bar, and weight on my frame. So I did all the math. I was like, oh, I need to be at 4,200 calories a day. Great. What does that look like? Turned out to be 7 pounds of food a day.
That's a lot of food.
I refused to do it by cheat meals. And so it was 3 pounds of chicken, 4 pounds of rice or potatoes, and an ounce of almonds for my fat at every meal. That's where like the grind and the hustle really started taking over. And like I was a natural athlete at that time. And in a year, I'd put on 20 pounds naturally with still maintaining like a 4-pack, while everybody else that was in the gym that was on steroids, I outpaced all of them. And I was like, oh, more work I do, the better I get. And then it just kind of flowed from there. And then I started my first business at 23. I put out 16 hand-painted roadside signs that led to a call that led to $35 an hour as a 23-year-old kid. And I was like, oh, more volume of signs, more phone calls, more jobs, more money. Don't have to ever go back to work again. And so for me, it's always just been a volume game of the more I do, the more I get, the more I become. and it's just been a cycle of that. And then entered heartbreak, found men's work. Men's work led to actually doing like the first bit of inner work that I ever got to, questioning myself, discovering shadow and inner child work. And then that led me to you 5 months later, and I just kept showing up.
Yeah, you definitely did. Annoyingly so, but I loved it. Consistency is highly underrated nowadays, and I would say that you have that in spades.
I can be one of the most consistent people you'll ever meet in your life.
So that brings me to a question. How do you feel like AI is going to affect people's consistency to show up? Do you think it will affect that, or do you think it will make it easier?
I think of everything as a bell curve. I think there's always going to be the lazy people that are on the left side of the bell. There's going to be the majority of the population, which is towards like the upward end of the bell, where like they're the median or the mean. And then there's going to be the outliers on the other end of the bell curve that accomplish everything. And AI is just a tool that takes them from 1x to literally 100x of what they can produce. It's just like the people that consume Netflix all day versus the people that Netflix is available and they decide to go work still every day. And I think it could end up widening that gap further. And it may bring some of those people on the far left side of that bell curve closer to the median, because hopefully after a while they've gotten so sick of their shit that they now come towards more of the center.
What is the hardest thing you've pushed through as a founder? Because you have owned roofing businesses, and it's funny, you talked about the fact that you put out roadside signs, which is like the opposite of where we're at now as a society, where you're doing digital ad creation, you're using AI to do 90% of the work. So you've done the very blue collar, hands-on work. What's the hardest thing you've pushed through, and what did it teach you that no tool, piece of AI technology could ever teach you?
Push through as a founder or a business owner?
Yes.
Well, I started my first business in Tucson, ran it there for almost 6 years, started in roofing, said, I'm done with this. My body's over this. I was engaged at the time, and she wanted to go back home to Florida. So I literally left my dad with the business, with whatever that remained of that. And I packed up and literally restarted in Florida. Did that for a year. That relationship didn't work out. Picked up and moved back to Tucson. And one roof led to another roof led to another roof, which turned into like 14 grand in 2-week period after being gone from the valley for 2 years and not having roofed in 6. And then I did the same thing. I left Tucson completely, packed it all up and brought it to Phoenix, and got kicked in the teeth a lot. And so AI is never going to replace the getting kicked in the teeth, ever, because all it does is offer an amplification. It doesn't actually offer the real world experience of going and getting rejected, putting in thousands of dollars in marketing, going and getting jobs, somebody saying, yeah, I'm going to hire you, and then they never call back. And that hire may have paid rent. that hire may have paid for the truck tires that just went bald. AI is never going to be able to replicate that. And we're going to constantly get kicked in the teeth unless we turn into Ready Player One and we're living in a digital world forever, at which point they still got kicked in the teeth.
Every day. And I would say it's interesting, right? Because AI will actually tell you if it thinks something is going to kick you in the teeth that you shouldn't do it. Whereas as humans, the most amazing things that we find in life are usually when we jump before we realize what we're actually getting into.
Yeah, my AI has been trained to tell me to do things and get kicked in the teeth.
So you've actually trained your AI to be more risk-oriented and push you to do things.
Yeah, as scary as it is, like, it's trained on me, but you pull out your iPhone and it's taking a picture of you every 1 to 5 seconds, regardless of whether you want it to or not. And so all of our data's out there. And so I've just gotten to the point where I've used it for therapeutic senses, and it's trained on me. It's literally learned about my different romantic relationships. It's learned about my shadows and inner children that run rampant at times. And at first it was very sycophantic. It would just tell me exactly what I wanted to hear. And if there's one thing other than showing up that I'm really good at, is playing devil's advocate. Even if it's a line that I don't stand on, I could find everything to argue for it, and just for argument's sake would do that. And so I would challenge it. And I'd be like, we're not doing this. And I would rewrite different prompts, and I'd be like, stop doing this. Stop telling me it's my truth. No, it's not my truth. This is how I feel. These are my thoughts and opinions, but it's not my truth. Or challenge me on how I should enter romantic relationships, or how I should have a difficult conversation with a friend. Or am I being a little bitch in this this situation? Or am I actually like fairly well grounded and trying to understand that?
Yep.
And it's interesting. I was on a date last night and having this conversation. She was asking about using AI for therapy after I had brought it up. And she's like, do you think people should use it? And it's a very nuanced question to me. I did a year of talk therapy while also doing another year and a half of one-on-one coaching with other mentors and coaches. Plus, I had literally sat by myself with myself for almost 32 years, crying, screaming, wondering what all of this is about, to where I actually had a very strong foundation to build from, and not allowing it to actually just placate to my emotions and my feelings and justify everything that I was feeling and thinking. Where I don't think a lot of people actually have that strength because they haven't gone through those challenges, trials, and tribulations, or even just have enough common sense to question themselves and what the outside world is saying.
Yeah, I would say that's my biggest gripe about using AI from a therapeutic or a psychological standpoint is most people don't have the depth and the understanding of themselves like you do, where, okay, I'm going to use it for this, but I have to be careful in how I interpret the data that goes in and out, what I feed it versus what it gives me. You and I know, we've had this conversation many times. You know how I'm like the opposite end of the spectrum from you on using it for any sort of therapeutic nature. I look at AI solely as like the spear that I can throw at something.
See, I still look at it as a tool. It's a tool. So I come from construction, and my ex-fiance would always be like, God, Tyler, how many saws do you need? Well, honey, this box saw I use for this. This miter saw I use specifically for this. This table saw does this really well. This jab saw does this really well. And I have 30 saws, and they all do a different function to the best of their abilities. And so I look at it as just another tool on the tool belt, rather than this is the tool that is going to fix my life. This is the tool that is got all of the knowledge, and I don't need anything else. And I've also always questioned authority.
That's
my
true.
entire life.
You and I are very similar in that respect. Do you think there's a difference in, or is there an added benefit to using AI for what we're going to call psychological introspection and therapy versus talking to another human? Do you think there's a difference?
I think there's a very large difference, where I would almost always recommend speaking to a human being. The thing that sucks about speaking to talk therapy is finding a therapist that is relatable while also being able to call you on your BS. And it's just like, it's finding a good massage therapist, it's finding a good talk therapist, it's good finding a good physical trainer or a physical therapist. I have spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per each of those categories to go and find the one that was actually really beneficial, relatable, and able to call me on my shit. Where a GPT is super easy to access right here and now, but without that level of discernment, that's where it can actually start to be dangerous. And if I would, let's say, go talk to a talk therapist at 2:30 on a Tuesday, I could take what was delivered from that, what I remembered, and I could go and implement that into GPT and say, hey, this is what we actually covered. And it could just create a running log, and then it could actually amplify, because then I can bounce that information that it gave me and also take it back to my talk therapist and be like, hey, here's like, let's actually start cutting through this and sorting through everything. But I would always recommend starting with a human, like bar none. The problem is the barrier to entry. A good therapist is a minimum of $100 an hour, and that's cheap now. Like you could be at $220, $300 an hour for a decent therapist. That's a giant barrier to entry for almost everybody in the population.
Yeah, that certainly makes it more expensive. Do you think that that's going to lead to, I always drive home this idea that we're in the beginning of like Minority Report, where knowing what's going to happen before it happens. Do you think you spelling out what's going on in your mind with relationships, with the way you think and feel, do you think that will have an effect in the future on the way AI reacts to humans?
Like if AI almost becomes sentient?
Or if the companies that control AI use it in a negative format?
In a nefarious format?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, AI will literally track, if you're on Instagram, the forward-facing camera is literally tracking where on the screen we are looking, how long we are looking at that, and they are using that to better train their, here's just the reels that we're going to send you, here's the advertising that we're going to send you, and everything like that. So absolutely, I think it could be used and possibly is being used for nefarious activity. I come in like men's work and in spiritual practices, whatever you want to call it. People talk about a sovereign being, a sovereign king, a sovereign queen, and that's just like this individual that regardless of all these outside opinions, I can still formulate and stand by my own opinions, my own boundaries, my own values, and go about things that way. I don't know that a lot of people have that level of sovereignty that they're aware of anymore. Everybody's capable of it, but not everybody actually has that deep access and knowing. And then we are humans. Like I could say I have a boundary. Let's say use my relationship with you, for example. I could say I have a boundary, and you have a boundary, but now we're two humans coming into the same building. And if those don't allow us to relate, like we're never going to have like a succinct relationship. And so I never think of a boundary as like this very hard line that you shall not pass. It is this amorphous, almost like an amoeba where it's got its cellular wall and it's shape-shifting a little bit and it's bumping up against things and it can actually absorb things. It can let things permeate its membrane and vice versa. And that's how like I'll think of a boundary. But if we don't allow for those types of things to actually happen, we're never going to get anywhere. If you think 1 + 1 = 2 and I think 1 + 1 = 11, but we're not actually willing to talk to each other about it and understand where we're at, I could be like, you're stupid, and then never be friends with you.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so we're gonna move on from that because you and I have been building something now for close to a year, and going back to the nefarious nature of some of these large companies, I think what we're building is actually pretty cool with respect to we're giving people the anonymous nature, the protection of their privacy and their data. We've been on this My Instant AI trip now for a little bit. How do you stay grounded and humble while we build this thing? Because I know and I see at times it makes you feel, limitless. It makes you feel very proud, and I'm humbled by it. But how do you stay grounded and humble in those everyday moments?
I mean, it could be as simple as, hey, we're raising money. X amount of dollars is going to come in next week, and X amount of dollars doesn't come in for another 3 months. It goes back to like this getting kicked in the teeth. Or Mike Tyson's quote of everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yep.
The way that I always come back to my center and staying grounded is through vigorous exercise and training. I grew up watching Dorian Yates train, and his whole thing was take every set. You had your warm-ups, and then you took every set till failure. And then if you had the ability, you did negatives on all of it. So you would concentrically finish a curl, And then if you could not curl the dumbbell up any further, either you or a partner would lift it to the top and then you just lower it as slow as you can over and over and over again until it literally just falls. And I discovered this, like I romanticize it still. Like I'll get goosebumps and chills and still the feel good feelings of taking a set to absolute failure. And it teaches me of something about myself every single time. And it's taught me that, so when it comes to inner work, when it comes to building a business, when it comes to romantic or friendships, it's the repetitions over and over and over again. When putting on muscle or putting on strength or putting on size, you cannot see it day by day. It is, I stuck to my diet. I ate the same 6 meals for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I did the same training and I slowly progressed over time. And naturally, if you're lucky, you'll put on 4 pounds a month without getting very fat. And if you're lucky, you'll put on a few pounds on the bar, maybe 10 pounds on the bar. And it's just this constant showing back up for it. So I humble myself by wanting to get to the point of absolute exhaustion and vomiting to keep me grounded.
I have seen this firsthand many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. Competing against people that are better than me. That's a great way to get humbled. Oh, you're better than me at running? Great. I should probably shut my mouth a little bit. Or, oh, you're smarter than me? You're better at business than me? And you showed me? Oh, it's getting punched in the teeth again. Or, oh, I finally found the one. And then she breaks it off. And then I get to go through the emotional turmoil of rediscovering myself, of reigniting a fire, of, well, what happened, and actually taking stock of what happened from that. Like, that's my one superpower, is even if I get kicked in the teeth and go down for 6 months, I come back up over and over and over again. And as much as I don't want to say it, it's, please, sir, may I have some more?
It's that brings me to, it is our favorite TV show to talk about and discuss, and it's one of the most motivational cartoons, animes ever, probably. Dragon Ball Z.
Not probably. It's the best
It is
TV
the best
show ever created.
It is. It is the constants of those two characters, Goku and Vegeta, where they are constantly battling stronger opponents, getting their ass whooped, coming back for more, winning, losing over and over again.
And it's the enthusiasm that comes from it. Even when they get knocked down, it's like, God, I can't get back up. I don't want to do this. Wait, everything is riding on this? Hey, can you go step in the arena for a little bit so I can catch my breath? It's like the Majin Buu saga when they're fighting Kid Buu and Goku's like, Vegeta, I need 2 minutes. And Vegeta's just like awestruck. He's like, 2 minutes? And then it turns into like 20 minutes and Goku is literally not recovering. And it's just this, all right, eventually it's going to come back and we're going to win. But how many iterations do we have to go through?
So, do you think that AI is going to negatively affect people's ability to get back up? Or do you think it will deter people from even building that muscle of constantly getting back up after life has beat you down?
Absolutely. I know a little bit about a lot of things, and there's this brain structure called the reticular activating system, and RAS in our brains, and it can literally grow in spatial volume by us doing hard things that we don't want to do. So if I don't want to go running today, but I lace up my shoes and I go for the run today, regardless, it got a little bit bigger and stronger. If I do not want to stick to my diet today and I stick to it to a T, even though I wanted that nice brownie that's in the fridge right now, gets a little bit bigger and stronger. If I'm in a season of life that says, do not reach out to that girl as much as I want to reach out to that girl, it gets a little bit stronger today. And so if people are constantly relying on AI to solve all of their worldly problems, that muscle, that little area of the brain is actually going to regress and get smaller. And it's why more things become harder when it's regressed. When I've been in my most depressed states, getting out of bed has been one of the hardest challenges of the day. Getting up at the first alarm. So if you can even start there, if you're that place in your life, if you can just not hit the snooze button and get out of bed, go do that. Well, I don't feel like working out today. Well, can you go for a walk today? Can you just get outside even though you don't even want to get outside? You want to plop in front of your phone or the TV and turn that on? And so if we allow it, AI will take us to a place like Wall-E, where we're all 400-pound giants sitting around in a chair that floats us around, and there's just a digital screen in front of us forever. That's a distinct possibility for most of humanity. I don't think all of humanity, but I think most of humanity. It's that bell curve again. So yes, answer your question succinctly, I think it can make us weaker and less driven.
Do you think that's going to be an advantage to those of us that have developed that part of the brain, which I don't think it's the reticular activating system, because I'm pretty sure that's part of your capabilities of like vision manifestation. Andrew Huberman talks about it. I think it's like part of your prefrontal cortex, isn't it?
The RAS is in part of your prefrontal cortex.
But I think it's an actual. I'm pretty sure it's a different, and we'll have to look this up, we'll put it in the comments. We'll put it in the comments of this video. Do you think that there's an advantage to those of us that have already developed the ability to continue getting up, to continue going through difficult things? Do you think AI is going to create this giant divergence between people that haven't or are unwilling to develop versus those that are already developed?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it right now. We see it with the people that in the US that live on SNAP benefits when they they are in no way, shape, or form incapable of going to work, getting a job, paying their bills. They just have gotten to some place in their life where they don't want to for whatever reason. Whether it's called motivation, whether it's because they've realized that the system will actually pay for their life and they're okay with that. And then, so that gap is over here. And then you have an Elon that just became a trillionaire. And he uses AI and he uses technology to amplify his life. So the gap has never been bigger as far as we're aware of in history. And so, yes, there's a very distinct possibility that it's just going to create that bigger gap. And maybe that becomes two different species. Maybe that becomes a caste system like they have in India, where you just have different ranks of people. I don't want to go all dystopian future on it, but there's a possibility of it.
What do you think is the thing right now that people lean on AI for the most that makes them the softest or the laziest instead of the sharpest?
Writing for sure. I even went through this. Like, I wanted to be a coach for a while, and there's still a part of me that wants to. And when I was putting together a course, like, I've written out courses, like literally handwritten out courses, went through the structure of it, turned into a 27-plus page document with resources and all this other stuff. And then when I discovered GPT and how fast it could spit these different sections out and amplify it and build the retreat for me and all this other stuff, I actually got lazier. I would review it and then just say, okay, let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next. And it actually built a lazier Tyler to where I took a step back and I was like, no, we're not doing this right now. So whether it's client emails, whether it's copy if you are in marketing or a business owner, whatever it is, like, yes, it can remove these certain skill sets and make people lazier. But like, I'm a contractor by trade. I'm really good at swinging a hammer. I'm not as good at sitting on a computer all day and doing marketing or building a CRM or doing all these things. Do I have the capacity and the capability? Sure. But almost no contractor enjoys doing that. So that's where if we can offload that work off of certain trades, it's absolutely a 10x multiplier for that person, potentially. But yeah, writing, making videos. Like I'm now seeing AI podcast videos.
Oh, I hate that.
And I'm just like, oh, I like what you're talking about. And I'm like, this whole thing was written by an LLM and then created by a video gen and then posted. And it's funny because they'll even clip it like an Instagram post of an influencer where they're trying to make it a succinct point just to make it look more real rather than the AI just having made a 30 to 90 second clip uninterrupted and it being perfect. So
There's a guy I follow. It's actually funny you bring that up. All of his videos are an AI caricature of him, and it's meant to be him, but it literally, you can tell it's AI, and it drives me nuts every time I see it come up in my feed, because I think one of the things that is going to separate out the humans that keep their creativity, that continue to grow and learn, is the ability to get in front of camera, to talk to people, to have a conversation, as opposed to, let me go put an idea into ChatGPT, it spits out a script, it sends it to a video, AI creator, it creates it, it posts it. At that point, you kind of lose all of the humanity behind it, don't you?
for sure. Some of my favorite AI podcast clips, it's when the baby thing was like super popular and people would take like, let's say a JRE clip with him and Theo, and then they would just literally put the babies talking and then laughing and giggling and falling out of their chairs. Like that's comical, that's funny. But now it's also to the point of, well, is that really Joe Rogan talking? Or did AI finally create his voice so well with his mannerisms because there is so much documented material from him that, like, one of my favorite people to listen to is Alan Watts. Half the things that I'm viewing online, whether it's on YouTube or on Instagram, aren't actually Alan Watts. It's just his voice and somebody writing something or having GPT write something based off of Alan's teachings. And then it's like, oh, Alan's so smart. And it's like, actually, how do I get those physical tapes or records from when Alan was actually producing content? Because he's one of the most genius people, in my opinion, to walk the earth and that can actually speak to it. And that's where AI starts to get a little scary for me, is I don't know who's saying what, when, where, or why.
Well, and I would add on that humans that are also outsourcing their entire creative thinking and thought processing is equally as scary.
Yeah, I used to be decent at drawing and art, and I don't outsource it, but I haven't practiced it, and so it's that muscle that has shrunk. I don't know how to exercise it. Sitting down in front of a piece of paper to write something half the time is difficult now. Like, unless I schedule it, or it's just like, it's this thing that comes in, and like, I need to get this out now, it leaves and doesn't come back usually. And it's going to be that same thing with AI, is if I am constantly letting AI write things for me or do my creative work for me, that muscle is just going to shrink constantly. If I'm not interacting with people in the real world, my communication skills are actually going to go down because I'm not practicing it.
Yep.
If I don't practice lifting a weight, sure, I can visualize getting stronger, and they've done studies that it actually works. But you're not going to turn into a Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia, by meditating in your bedroom, imagining yourself lifting weights. You might have to go squat 800 pounds for reps for years on end.
Maybe.
To get that.
It's so funny at how life with AI is comparable to life without going to the gym.
Everything in life is comparable to going to the gym.
That's true. That's true. It is something you and I can agree on, and we talk about quite a bit. If AI can do all of these things, what's left on the table that is distinctly human? And why will that always set people apart? We've talked about consistency. We've talked about the ability to get knocked down. But what is it about the human spirit? What is it about humanity in general that is still left on the table and that people should 10x?
I think we're seeing a renaissance of it with whether it's like and these aren't plugs, but like a Sweat Pals app or these different hiking and running and pickleball groups. Whether it's like men's and women's work communities where they do cacao and breath work or book clubs. And like, I've seen a huge I don't even know if it's a resurgence or just like this new wave finally coming on board of like in-person human connection. There might be a point 5 to 15 years down the road with humanoids and they get the skins and exoskeletons and everything so like indiscernible from a human that maybe it replaces that. And maybe AI does become like sentient, or it's so good at what it does that it knows how to actually have conversations and like trigger you a little bit. And like you can set the settings really if you want. But right now, like AI makes pretty good music. It makes really cool artwork and 3D visuals that no human has ever been able to recreate unless like they're a digital animator. And it gives us these possibilities, but I think that there will always be like, I like a Tesla car. I want to drive a vehicle. I have a 2003 Dodge Ram with a lot of play in the steering wheel and a very manual, clunky transmission. And I love driving that more than my 24 Ram, which is smooth, buttery sailing at times, because I want to feel what's going on in the world. And I think people will do that with whether it's music and art and actually wanting to buy from a human being. Doesn't matter how cool AI's artwork is. If I actually get to see a human documenting it through their Instagram or how things happened, I'm actually building a story around that. It's like when we get into a romantic relationship, very rarely are we truly relating to the person that's in front of us as they are. Almost every single person that I know, and I'm very guilty of this, is I start to project and romanticize who this person is based off of stories and the way that they're talking and interacting with me. And I think all humans pick up on those things and pick up on those interactions. And the more that we get back into the real world, whatever this thing is that we're in right now, the more people are going to crave that and actually go after that. I mean, flip phones. I just saw an advertisement for a Razor. A Razor
in
flip
2026.
phone. In 2026. People are craving going away from an iPhone and screen time. When we were growing up, white New Balance shoes were for old people only. Every old man, and it was only old men pretty much that wore them. Now, almost every fitness influencer and Instagrammer wears these goofy looking white New Balance shoes. What was old is now cool again. Mullets, mustaches, bell bottoms, high-waisted shorts and jeans. Like everything starts to make this resurgence. And I think human beings are actually starting to see that. And this younger generation, for as much as even I give them slack for every once in a while, they're actually wanting to go back to the ways of old. Like more and more of our generation wants like this iteration of a commune. They want to be on a piece of land or have a neighborhood street where them and all their friends live on that same street, and they actually co-parent and raise their children and their kids play outside. Like we're actually starting to see a resurgence of that rather than, well, that's for the hippies.
Community's growing exponentially because of AI.
I don't know that it's because of AI. I think it's because of technology, and AI is a part of that technology boom. It started with the internet, which then led into online gaming, which also led into social media. I mean, social media has been around since about 2009, I think now.
But
like
don't you
Facebook.
think, though, that social media kind of like almost broke communities apart because it separated people, and now that there's almost this surgence of AI that it's causing people to now come back together?
I don't know that it's the surgence of AI. I think AI happened to come online right about the same time that people were wanting this. And AI is just going to be another layer on top of all of that.
Okay. So community is a big one. You know, another big one for me is that without the ability to visualize what it is you want to build in your mind, you would never be able to properly give a prompt to an AI to go and do something, create something, build something. So, do you think it's important that humanity as a whole, people practice the ability to visualize things in their mind's eye and then take it to the real world? And do you think that's something that's going to be lacking because of AI and outsourcing creativity?
I think human beings as a whole are a creative entity on this planet. Like, if you look at us versus every other species of animal on this planet, as far as we're aware, like, we have different forms of telecommunication. We have different tools. Like, we build studios and we build all these things that literally only existed in our mind. Um, I think AI could amplify that. I could think asking the right questions could then deliver an actual deliverable. Um, but I think the reason that anxiety has been on a constant rise has been because people are less connected to themselves, less connected to source, if that's what you want to say too. But even just like sense of being is a lot of that angst comes from not actually taking action on whatever it is, whether it's going and talking to the girl or the boy, or whether it's going and building the business, or going and signing up for that art class. I think that's where a lot of that angst actually comes from. And so unless people are exercising it again, it's going to remove the creative layer. And I think AI may eventually come to the point that it starts creating things on its own, though.
What is the number one skill? And I'm talking hard skill. If you were to tell your younger self, other people, what's the number one hard skill you would want somebody to learn in 2026?
People need to learn to do things with their hands, whether that's some sort of arts and craft, whether that's some sort of form of construction, and or going and building themselves in the gym. Those are hard skills. A soft skill would be like communication. It would be empathy. It would like learning how to actually do things like that. But a hard skill would be one of those three things, is what I tell people. I think it's very powerful to learn how to go and build something. And it's because the amount of things that I have broken and messed up have taught me to get back up on the bike, the metaphorical bike, and go and redo it again and again and again. And until we actually have humanoids that can do all of that for us, it's going to be a skill set that is invaluable. If everything technology-wise went dark tomorrow for whatever reason, those hard skills of being able to go and live off the land or build something, or, hey, this vehicle just died, but we needed to get to the next place, like actually knowing how to wrench on that is irreplaceable. And so it's the creativity, whether it's from an engineering or just an artwork background, building things with literal hands, and lifting. Because lifting literally builds the body. It gets things moving. And it can be a physical form of exercise, whether it's yoga or anything, but I don't think anything replaces lifting.
I would agree with you. And it's funny, what you just said, all of it requires you to be able to visualize something in your mind before you go do it, whether you're building something physical, an object, your body, whatever it may be. It requires you to have sight, looking at what it is you're actually going to go build. And I would add on that I think cultivating the ability to have that sight of what you're building, to be able to see it inside before you actually go build it outside, is the precursor, equally as important, but just as necessary as then taking it to the physical world.
Like, people that amaze me are artists. And I'm talking like big muralists that take the side of a building and somehow paint something that when you stand back, it looks almost like a photograph. I don't have the skill set for that. It amazes me. So to be able to see and go and watch somebody do that, or somebody be like, I'm going to build an engine. What is an engine? And literally start from the ground up by taking a hunk of metal and boring holes in it and making all these different things that succinctly work together, and it produces power magically. You got to start somewhere, though.
Yeah, you do. You're absolutely right. Okay. I want to take you back to your younger self when you're just getting started in business.
Okay.
If you could give yourself one AI tool, what would you give yourself? And would it change the trajectory of your life at all? Or would you be in the same place today?
I think for almost every business owner, and this is especially true for me, was getting the next job lined up, which meant marketing and leads. So an AI tool that can do that and handle that, which there's a lot now, that's the one tool that I would have loved to have had, because like I said, I can go swing a hammer, I can go paint with a brush or a roller all day. But when you asked me to sit down in front of a computer and handle the rest of that, that part really sucked. That's the gift that I would have given to 23-year-old Tyler when he started out in construction on his own. A large part of me, though, I don't know that I'd be sitting right here, right now, across the table from you, because that one tool could have built me a truly successful, on the outside, business in construction. I like doing construction. I do not like doing construction for an income or for work. When I have to go do something, it's the time that I hate doing it and I don't want to go do it. So I am one of the hardest working people and one of the laziest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And so as much as I would have liked to given that tool to that younger man, and it would have made many, many chapters of my life much easier, I don't know, and when you and I have had this discussion, had we not messed up as many times, had we not had as many failed partnerships or not talked to the right woman or the right mentor at the right time, we wouldn't be here, for better or worse. I don't know. Maybe my life would have been grand and I would have been stoked with it. But right now, as hard as certain things are right now, I would not be sitting here having a discussion with you. And so I also wouldn't want to give that tool to that young man. I'd want him to keep eating dirt and gravel for the next 13 years of his life, because it built a certain level of character development that, had I had to offload putting out roadside signs in the middle of summer in Tucson and Phoenix when it's 115 degrees out, and somebody rips out my sign within 12 to 24 hours, and that one sign could have produced $1,000 in revenue, and then I had to go do it again and again and again, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be as strong mentally or emotionally. Because trust me, when those signs get ripped out, I still get pissed.
Oh, I know. I see it. I hear it. We've seen that happen in 4 hours and less.
Yeah. And it sucks. And get back up and go do it again.
No regrets. Nothing changed.
There's always going to be regrets, but I don't get to split test life.
Yeah.
I don't get to split test talking to that girl again, whoever she is. I don't get to split test having a difficult conversation with you and seeing if it had branched one way or the other. As far as I'm aware, I only get to keep living life in this one plane of existence moving forward. We might be able to go and mentally time travel like you've spoken about and change things in the past. But this Tyler right now, I don't, as far as I'm aware, don't get to experience that. I only get to live life forward.
Yep.
So, sure, there's always regrets, but I wouldn't change a single thing.
Agreed. And it's funny you bring up the mental time travel, because it's one of my favorite things to talk about, mostly because, and I'm sure you picked up on it and everybody else has, visualizing the future to me is such an important thing that is innate in humans, but not necessarily in technology or in other animals. For all we know, it may not be an ability of any other species across the universe, but humans have this insane ability to go into the future, project something, attach emotions to it, and it makes it easier to reach that point in the future. And it's fascinating, and I love it. Okay, final question, and this one's going to bring it all home. For somebody listening who feels behind, broke, late to the party, doesn't know what to do, what's the move for them? What would you tell them? The home run.
Just start And if you're not moving your body, it's not a prerequisite. But every single thing that I have ever related to in my life has come from being disciplined physically. So going to the gym when I don't want to and when I want to, going for the runs, eating the diet that I do and do not want to eat. I always take it back to, even though we are still an energetic being, we are still very much a physical being living in the physical world. So if the vessel is not right, almost nothing else is going to be right. If you have a chaotic workspace, it's probably a reflection of the chaos that's going on in your mind, or vice versa. If you have a chaotic mind, you probably have a chaotic workspace or living space. And so can you take it back to the bare fundamentals? If that is making your bed and brushing your teeth, start there and count it as a win. If it is going to the gym and just building that muscle of, I go to the gym Monday through Friday or 7 days a week, going and starting there. It's not some grand thing. It's not implementing AI into your life. It's not going and getting into community. It's literally starting with self and then go start doing all these other things. As far as I'm aware, we only get this thing for our lives. I don't have to live with you my entire life. As far as I'm aware, I have to live with myself my entire life. So can you bring it back? Can I bring it back to myself? Make myself better in whatever areas I am deeming better, and then start going into life and branching out. Is it going and getting a W-2? Is it going and starting the business? And we might have these grand ideas, but can I bring it back to square one? You and I have been building this business for a year now. I have still been working construction, bringing in income there. I went and got W-2s for the first time in 11 years just to have a consistent stream of income to keep a roof over our heads while we build a business. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's most likely not going to be pretty. It's starting somewhere and building from there. Give self a solid foundation to build from, and then God, source, universe, energetics, just your broadened awareness allows for more and more beautiful things to actually enter that you couldn't have planned.
For sure. Jump out of the plane. People will join you.
I am very much a jump out of the plane, build the plane on the way down or the parachute on the way down. You and I use the Barry Bonds analogy all the time of swing for the fences.
Yep.
He didn't get the most runs. He's known for one thing, a home run record, regardless of how many strikeouts he has. Go do the thing. If you fail, you still got a base hit. Shoot for the stars, you land on the moon.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, it's funny because you and I talk about this all the time, but you know me, like I'm always in motion, I'm always moving, I'm never stopping, and it's exactly that. Like once you start, keep the momentum, stay in motion, continue moving. Even if it's 1 inch, 1 mile, every second of every day, continue moving towards whatever it is you're building.
So not to like end on a sad note, but sometimes people will say, "Hey Tyler, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm alive." And I've often gotten the response of, "Well, that's sad." Sometimes that is the win. Like as somebody that has not wanted to be here at times, the fact that I showed up today, that is the win. You don't like that is the better everyday mentality of I'm here. I feel like I'm going to get kicked in the teeth all day today, but you know what? I'm still here and I'm still willing to go back out. I'm still willing to go and date another girl, even though my heart's been broken 30 times, whatever it is. Just showing up the next day, even if that's just literally the physical being sleepwalking through life. Sometimes that is the win. And just being okay with that.
Well, and I don't think that's a sad note to end on. I actually think that it's a very powerful thing that so many people don't necessarily take to heart, which is you don't lose if you don't quit. As long as you show up the next day,
Yeah.
you may not be at your best, you may not hit the home run that day, but as long as you show up fully ready to go and you don't quit, you're still in the game.
Still in the game.
And I think you and I can agree that part of the reason why we're here now, we have the opportunities that we have now, the business we're building, right place, right time, right opportunity, is just from having stuck in the pocket and been in the game for so long and refusing to quit.
Dude, I wouldn't be friends with you. I wouldn't be doing another business. That feels like I get kicked in the teeth a lot if it wasn't for that. It is the willingness and just saying, all right, whew, here we go again. Today was rough. Maybe I cried on the kitchen floor today. And then just literally getting up and going and doing it again.
Yeah, it's like the Navy SEALs. You don't ring the bell.
No, you just keep going.
I love that. Well, Tyler, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
I'm glad everybody could get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Same.
Let's keep building, bro.
Damn right.